Are you a landlord looking to sell a rental property? Maybe you want to do a 1031 exchange. Maybe you're just tired of dealing with tenants, toilet, and trash and it's time to cash in your chips. Or you inherited a property and want to get rid of it. Did you know that selling a rental property is not a valid no-fault reason to terminate a tenancy? We are going to run through how to sell a rental property in 2024 and make sure that you don't waste any time and net the most money. And of course, stick around to the end where we're gonna run through how we sell rental properties, tenant occupied or vacant, as real estate brokers. Hey there, Christian Walsh, real estate agent with Wire Associates. We've been helping renters and landlords understand their rights before things go wrong. A few key points before we get started. What we are discussing in this video is specific to California, but for the most part will apply across the nation. You will just need to understand your local rules and regulations related to tenancies. Don't forget, in the state of California, we have AB 1482, known as the Tenant Protection Act, which governs rental properties. Some properties are subject to AB 1482 and some are exempt. We've created a lot of content related to this. At the end of the day, you will need to know this as a landlord in order to be able to run through the appropriate procedure to terminate a tenancy or not terminate a tenancy. And remember, we can't give tax or legal advice, but for the most honest and up-to-date real estate advice, subscribe to this channel. The first big question is, are you going to sell with tenants or not? In some cases, you won't have a choice. You won't be able to get those renters out. But if it's a house or condo, you may find that you'll net more money if the property's vacant because you're going to be opened up to a larger pool of potential buyers, first-time buyers, move-up buyers, not just investors like you would be with a tenant-occupied property. Now, a duplex is one of those bridge properties where it may make sense to have at least one unit empty. A lot of first-time buyers and buyers today, in order to help afford expensive real estate, are looking to duplexes. So they want to live in one of the units and keep the other one rented out. Now, in the event that you end up having a buyer who doesn't want to move in, they can go ahead and rent it up for top of market rental rate. So there's no downside to having one unit empty in a duplex if you can. On the flip side, triplexes and larger, if they're completely empty, which yes, can happen, you're going to probably find it's difficult to finance. So in those cases, you may be going the other way. You may be leasing up all the units in order to sell that one for top of market. For houses and condos, if you're able to get it vacant, some of the advantages are you'll have more control over how it presents to potential buyers. So you'll be able to have it clean, have it empty or staged, have it fixed up. The other side of it is it'll be easier to get into, won't have to give proper legal notice, and the potential buyers can schedule an appointment at any point in time that's convenient for them. So doing that is going to net you more money, and as mentioned, the larger pool of buyers. The disadvantage to getting the renter out is it's going to take time and it may cost you some money as well. There may be relocation assistance, or you may be tempted to offer cash for keys. And in addition, you will find once it's empty that you're not getting income anymore off your income property. So there will be a loss of money, but it still may make sense when you run the numbers, and we can help you figure that math out. If you're selling with the tenants in place, you're selling the rental property with the tenants there, one of the biggest questions we get is, should you tell the tenants? And the answer is yes. There is no downside to honesty, and if your real estate agent is doing it right, most likely the tenants are going to find out that the property's for sale anyway. It's much less likely that it's going to lead to drama, because there's nothing like a tenant finding out from somebody walking the property or from a friend that the place they're living is for sale. Legally, you can sell. There's nothing that prevents you from selling your own property, so why not let the renter know that that's what's going to happen? And the renter must cooperate with the sale. If given proper legal notice, they must let the landlord in with prospective buyers. They must cooperate with the due diligence process. In California, it is governed by Civil Code 1954. And if the tenant doesn't, they can be evicted. So we absolutely encourage you, when selling a property, to let the renters know it's for sale. One more important point: if you're selling a property that's on a fixed term tenancy, so for example, a year-long lease, the owner will have to honor that lease, including the new owner. So if you sell it 6 months into a lease, the new owner has to let the tenant stay there through the end of their lease term. The option you have here is cash for keys, and we've released a recent video on that so you can see your options to potentially buying out the tenant to have them move out ahead of time. If the tenant is month to month, with proper legal notice, most likely you'll be able to terminate the tenancy. Could be a 30, 60, or 90-day notice in California. But bear in mind, some places you will need specific no-fault reasons in order to terminate that tenancy. For example, in LA City, you will have one of 4 no-fault reasons to terminate a tenancy, and in no case is wanting to sell the property a valid no-fault reason, particularly in LA City. Of course, when selling a rental property, you need to hire an agent who knows what the heck they're doing. They need to understand the local rules and regulations. They need to understand landlord and tenant law. In some cases, you can't simply just give a 30 or 60-day notice like you think you can. It can be much more complicated. While selling a property with a renter in place, you may suddenly find they were cooperative in the beginning, but not so anymore. If their rights aren't being respected, they're not given proper notice, for example, for showings. If the agents aren't showing up for the showings, if they're leaving doors open, lights on, things like that, very quickly a renter who was cooperative may not be anymore. You need an agent who can manage the process correctly. This is what we specialize in, so we're gonna run through our process very quickly so you get an idea of how it's done. First thing we need to do is come up with a plan that works for you. So we need to Zoom, have a phone call, sit down in person, and come up with a timeline and a plan that makes sense. You need to discuss the plan with your CPA to make sure that it makes sense for you. If you're gonna be doing a 1031 exchange, we're gonna help you figure out the timing on that. If you're gonna be terminating tenancy, and you can terminate a tenancy, we're gonna figure that out with you. Maybe you don't wanna stick around and take your time going through the whole process, and it makes sense for you to sell quickly. We have a pool of investors that can make that happen. Next steps, we have to determine a value of the properties in your portfolio. We have to figure out if you're gonna be doing a 1031 exchange, where you're gonna move that money to. What's the next property type gonna be? We're gonna work with you then to gather the documentation on income, expenses, rental agreements. We wanna see if you've given the proper disclosures, including in the state of California, the AB 1482 disclosure. If terminating a tenancy for one or all of the renters there, we are gonna make sure that we can give proper legal notice, and then we're gonna help you deliver that proper legal notice. We have an attorney we work closely with to make sure that we're following the letter of the law and making sure that the renter's rights are respected. Once the tenant does move out, we are gonna go ahead and help manage the process to get the property ready for sale. It could be an extensive renovation. We've helped landlords do this, or it could be just a little bit of cleaning up and getting it ready to go. We're gonna help manage that process and figure out the exact things that need to be done to get you top dollar. If selling with the tenant in place because we have to, or you want to as a landlord, we are gonna notify the renter that the property is for sale. We're gonna introduce ourselves. We're gonna give proper legal notice for a health and safety walkthrough, where we're gonna check on smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, make sure the water heater's strapped, look for any obvious health and safety issues that need to be taken care of to protect you as the landlord and protect your renter. We're gonna take professional exterior and interior pictures of the property so that we can show prospective buyers what the property looks like and avoid a bunch of looky-loos marching through there. And speaking of showings, when it's tenant occupied, we have a very specific process to manage showings that will minimize inconvenience to the renter and ultimately to you as a landlord, but still allow qualified buyers to get in there and compete so that you get the most money for your property. And then we're off to the races. We open escrow, and that's where there's a whole bunch more work that needs to be done when you specialize in tenant occupied properties. We're gonna manage the due diligence process with proper legal notice, make sure all the inspections are done, the appraisal. We're gonna make sure the paperwork is done, and that includes proper disclosures, copies of all the documents we collected. Make sure the buyer gets those. We're going to help with the tenant estoppel certificate, one of the most important pieces of paperwork in the deal when selling a tenant occupied property. And we've done a video on that too. We're going to work with the escrow officer to make sure rents are properly prorated. We're going to make sure security deposits are transferred. If there's a 1031 exchange involved, we're going to help you choose a qualified intermediary. And we're going to make sure that the deal is timed up to help avoid stress and help you avoid a big tax bill with a 1031 exchange. And that's a quick run through on just some of the things we do when we sell a tenant occupied property in Southern California. So reach out if you're looking to sell a rental property. And if this whole process that we've described of selling a property is too much of a pain in the neck and you just want to get rid of it, reach out. We have investors who will take tenant occupied properties off your hands. If you found this video helpful, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to our free weekly email newsletter where we cover topics like this plus a whole lot more you are not going to want to miss as a landlord. And you're going to find a whole lot more great content in this playlist right here. Thanks for tuning in. This has been Christian Walsh, real estate agent with Wire Associates, and we can't wait to hear from you.